Throughout their life together, Prince Philip remained a faithful companion of the Queen and a source of her strength. It was said about them, "Such alliances are made in heaven." On April 9, 2021, Elizabeth Yu's husband passed away, and 16 months later she herself died. But the stories of their amazing relationship are still alive. After Prince Philip's death, his coffin was placed in the Royal Crypt in St. George's Chapel on the grounds of Windsor Castle, but this is only a temporary shelter. Now that the Queen is gone, her husband's body will be moved to the Memorial Chapel of King George VI, where he will rest next to Elizabeth Yu and her parents, as well as the Queen's younger sister, Princess Margaret. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, whose love was legendary, are also buried in the chapel. It is known that Queen Elizabeth Yu and Prince Philip were each other's fourth cousins. Being related, the couple met at several royal events as children. Both attended the wedding of Philip's cousin, Princess Mary. At that time, Philip was only 13 years old, and the young Elizabeth was 8. As Time magazine wrote, the future Queen of Great Britain had already fallen in love with her fourth cousin. King George VI did not approve of his daughter's choice. Firstly, he was afraid that the people would not be able to accept the union of the crown princess with the Greek prince. In addition, the parents saw their daughter's future in marriage with a thoroughbred English duke, and Philip was brought up as a simple man, washing dishes, stoking the boiler, playing bowling in a team organized by the owner of a local pub. George VI was worried about the manners of his future son-in-law, for example, loud, noisy laughter. But the monarch did not resist his daughter's decision, because even as a child he promised her that she would marry whoever she chose. For the sake of the position of prince consort, Philip had to give up the title of Prince of Greece and Denmark and become Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten. He also took British citizenship and switched from practicing Greek Orthodoxy to Anglicanism. None of his family members were allowed to attend the wedding, including 3 sisters who married Germans. In addition, the couple had to delay the engagement for several years. King George VI was against announcing it before Elizabeth turned 21. For a while, the couple's affair was secret. Some of the letters in which the young Elizabeth wrote about the difficulties of long-distance love were auctioned in 2016. Knowing how much his future wife hates cigarette smoke, the then Prince of Greece and Denmark decided to give up smoking on the morning of the wedding day. At once, without compromise, I just took and threw a long-term habit. It is known that Prince Philip often called his wife Cabbage. No one knew exactly how this nickname was born, but if you look at it, there was nothing offensive about it. The address comes from the French mon petit chou, which means my darling. If you translate the phrase from French to English, you get my little cabbage, which translates as my little cabbage. Since Prince Philip called his wife in the French manner, she was not offended. The unusual nickname confused only people far from the royal court. By the way, Cabbage is not the only nickname worn by the Queen. Little Prince Charles called his mother Gan Gan. The same nickname was later picked up by Princes William, Harry, and George, the great-grandson of Queen Elizabeth Yu. It was difficult for the child to pronounce the long English great-grandmother, and he shortened the word to Gan Gan. Elizabeth Yu laughed at this manner. Obviously, a similar rule existed and still exists among many aristocrats. As explained by etiquette expert Lady Pam and Her Majesty's cousin in the biography of Elizabeth Yu. In England, upper-class people have always had separate bedrooms. When you live in a room alone, you feel more at ease. It's nice to be able to choose whether you sleep alone or with someone. Who needs cooks when such a spouse is around? According to the author of the book My Husband and I, the inside story of a 70-year royal marriage, Ingrid Seward, Prince Philip spent a lot of time in the kitchen cooking dinner for 4 children and carefully made sure that his wife did not forget to have lunch at work. The prince consort was famous for his ability to cook delicious omelets with smoked haddock for breakfast, which Elizabeth Yu liked. The Queen will forever be remembered by people for her love of bright colors and legendary inimitable style. She always looked luxurious and spectacular. By the way, her favorite fashion designer was Norman Hartnell. She was seen in a fancy hat much more often than in a crown. However, many believe that for Elizabeth Yu, the hat was its equivalent. The fact is that it was indecent for royals and other ladies of the upper class, according to the etiquette of the 50s, to show their hair in public. The Queen's huge collection numbered more than 5,000 copies, while she almost never wore each headdress more than once a year. Elizabeth II loved to combine her amazing hats with monochrome clothes, and some of her images were so original that they influenced fashion history to some extent. You can see that the hats she has worn in recent years pale a little compared to the crazy extravagant hats chosen by the Queen in the 1960s. But the fact that she remained a true fashionista for the rest of her life cannot but be admired. It is rumored that the Queen's handbag played a very important role during the events. With this accessory, Elizabeth II hinted to her staff that the conversation was no longer interesting to her. So if the purse was on the table, it meant that its owner wanted to leave the meeting within 5 minutes. And if the Queen put the bag on the floor, it was a real SOS signal, informing that Elizabeth II wanted to leave the event immediately. Elizabeth became the first woman from the royal family to join the armed forces. In February 1945, the future Queen, on her own initiative, joined the Women's Auxiliary Territorial Service and studied, having qualified as an ambulance driver. Her military service lasted 5 months, during which time she was promoted to the rank of lieutenant. It's hard to believe, but the 18-year-old princess really volunteered to work as a truck driver and mechanic. And in 2004, Elizabeth II surprised the public again. For the first time, the Queen held a women-only event at Buckingham Palace. Before that, no one had arranged such bachelorette parties in the building. Among the guests were a variety of successful women: J.K. Rowling, Twiggy, Kate Moss, and many others. The Queen could boast of what most people only dream of: a modern penthouse in the center of New York. Despite this, she came to the United States on an official visit only 5 times. Architect Norman Foster, who designed luxury apartments with an area of more than 900 square meters, received the title of Knight from Elizabeth II in 1990. The penthouse is located in the United Nations Plaza building.